Guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be shifting from digital marketing back to nursing. I basically was talking to somebody on Instagram, on my faceless Instagram, and we were talking about, what I do for work. And she was like, I would love to hear about stories. I would be so interested. So here I am, giving it to you. I can't go into too many details, but I can tell you some. So basically, I am a psych nurse. I work in a psychiatric facility. We don't call it psych ward. People still say psych ward, but that's a little back in the day, type of word. So I do work in a psychiatric facility. Usually, during the day, there are 3 nurses. You have your medication nurse, your charge nurse, and the swing nurse. Medication nurse gives out medications, it's usually 9 a.m., 1 p.m., 6 p.m., and HS at night. Then you have your charge nurse who does the assignments, does the admissions, basically keeps the unit under control as much as possible. Then your swing nurse basically just helps out wherever they need, whether they need to do a technician assignment or they switch over and do meds, and then the med nurse becomes the swing nurse and just really helps out with wherever, checks charts, checks orders. That's basically the routine of it. Now, those are typical days without your psych emergencies. So psych emergencies are when a patient is agitated to a level of getting aggressive or violent. So we press the psych alarm, and then technicians and nurses come from different floors to help out. So I am going to, there's been some situations that's been, bad, but this is the worst situation that I've had working there, and I'm pretty sure it's the same for a lot of people that work there. So there was this younger patient, because I do work on the adults unit, but there was this younger patient who was completely just out of control. When I mean there were psych emergencies every day for this patient was there for months, 3 to 4 months. This patient was there because when they get sent to a long-term facility, it takes a while. So they're on, which is a state hospital. So they could be on a waiting list, and then you gotta wait, and sometimes they get bumped depending on the situation with the other patient that they're waiting to receive. So this patient was there for a very long time. When I mean taking down exit signs, busting out windows, fighting staff. And at the beginning, people were skeptical because this patient's been there before and tore up one of the rooms so badly that they needed to call the cops on this patient. Literally call the cops on this patient to take control of the situation. So, and that was years ago. So when this patient came back, still out of control, just busting windows, taking exit signs, fighting staff. There was this one night, because I did swing shift before I did day. One night that this patient tried to attack a staff member. Literally took one of the books, threw it down the desk, knocked over the water jug, slipped on the water that spilled, bust their head open, completely, leaking, and still trying to fight a staff member. I really couldn't believe it. Running up to in the nurse's station, trying to grab paper clips, just doing the utmost. Now everywhere it's short staff, not only my hospital, but there's times where it's short staff. So when you call a psych emergency, how many bodies do you think is really gonna show up? It was chaotic. There was even a point where this patient and another patient ganged up against staff. So it was just ridiculous. So you got 2 of them against staff So now you got to figure out a way, okay, how I'm going to de-escalate this before this get out of control. And it's just you don't call the cops just because. You deal with the emergencies, all you and your staff deal with the emergencies. So there's no calling the cops. Once the patient gets, to a psych facility, that's pretty much it. Unless it's out of control and this patient is, really like tearing things up, like to a certain extent, then they will call for some extra help. But usually it's just you and the staff handling the situation. But I mean, this patient bleeding from their head, going up to staff trying to punch them, just crying and just all over the place, like just really out of their mind. I was just like, what did I get myself into? And this wasn't just that situation happened one night, but it was every night. Every night. This patient would basically like sleep during the day. And then once the evening hit, like 3, 4, that was it. That was it. It was very few times where during the day, the patient was a problem. So once you have that patient who sleeps during the day and is up during the evening, forget about it. It's just, I feel like in the evening, chaos just happens. Like, I don't know what it is, but that evening time, chaos is happening. And you just don't even know what to expect. So, I was just like, what am I getting myself into? Every day I would go in to get report. I would come in and I'm just like preparing myself for the worst because this patient was out of their mind. And you'll get patients they have psych issues, but a lot of it is behavioral problems. So you'll get a lot of patients where it's their behavior. So it's kind of, you really think about it, you can't really fix a patient with behavioral problems. Like you can't just give them psych meds thinking it's gonna fix their behavioral problem. It's really kind of hard. It sucks because the system is like not the best. I'm gonna be honest. The system is not the best, especially when it comes to mentally ill patients. So it was just nonstop, like multiple shattered windows. They always have to come up and fix it. I mean, and even trying to like intimidate staff. So this patient knew like if they were scaring a staff member, they just got a rise out of that, and it just kept going and kept going. So that's what in psych facilities, they just really like to, some of the patients will try to get under your skin and try to like scare you, and they'll know when you're scared. So I'm not trying to scare you, so try not to show no fear, especially if you're interested going into psych. Like you just kind of have to, at first, you're going to be, of course you're going to have someone who you're shadowing. It's going to be different, especially if you've never done psych. And you're going to have those moments where you're like, oh my God, like what did I get into? But then you'll have the patients who's a lot calmer and who you'll build rapport with. So it won't always be that super psychotic patient that you hear about. You'll have, you'll have some substance abuse. You'll have homeless. You'll have a mix of patients when you're working in psych. But my 3 years that I worked there, that was the worst situation. Like, cause every night was a psych emergency. And you just did not know what you were about to get into. But you expected something was gonna happen. So we eventually started giving this patient IM injection and restraints. Did that stop this patient? No. Because once that was done, the patient would do it again and again. And it'd be little things that will trigger this patient. Like this patient and another patient could have gotten to a verbal altercation, and they could have said something that hurt their feelings. And then that patient would take it out and start busting out windows and ripping down exit signs, pretty much. So it was like any little thing would trigger. So your first thing is to de-escalate. But with certain patients like that, there's really no de-escalating. You can talk to them even if you have a rapport, but that's not gonna stop them from doing what they wanna do. And that would be busting out windows and attacking staff, unfortunately. Safety notes, if you're interested in psych nursing or being a technician, always keep your distance when you're talking to a patient. Notify, whoever you're working with that you're going down, the female side, the male side, wherever you're going, just notify somebody. I would even bring somebody with you, especially at the very beginning, because you do have to do rounds, you do have to do checks and check on patients. So always just like have somebody watching your back, which they're pretty good with that. But always keep your distance. They say arm length. I would go longer than arm length, like at least 2 arm lengths, and depending on the patient, just try not to get close. But these are patients who you have to communicate with and talk to, so try not to be afraid. They are regular people, they just have mental illnesses. That's just what it comes with. Just let them know where you're going. Always have your alarm key on you. That's basically a button that you press. Think of it as a panic button, but you press it and then it alerts the hospital, makes a noise, and then everybody knows where to go to. And as a nurse, when you're giving an injection, a keynote, make sure, especially if you're giving injections in their arm, make sure their hands, like somebody's holding their hands down, because you don't want that patient to take that needle from you. You just always got to be careful, and you always want to be the last one in and the first one out when you're giving the injection. Those are just like a key pointers for nurses looking to go into psych nursing. I hope I did not scare you. I don't want you to be scared, because psych nursing, it can be rewarding. Yes, there's ups and downs, and it can be mentally exhausting. It can be. And then a lot of times you have to check yourself before you go in, especially when you're having problems yourself and then you're going in to help other people, because that can even trigger you too. You don't know what somebody's going through, and they could be discussing that with you, and that could be triggering an emotion that you didn't even know you had. So that's another thing to think of. But it can be mentally exhausting, going through all of that. I was mentally exhausted. All those psych emergencies, I was done. I was shot. And I wasn't the only one. Every staff member, not even on our unit, every staff member coming to the psych emergency all the time was shot. Because it was what are we gonna do with this patient? No matter how many crisis prevention plans we do with this patient, no matter what we give this patient just has a behavior problem. So we just have to keep doing what we have to do. Unfortunately, you gotta restrain them, you gotta inject them, you gotta keep doing what you gotta do. It's just very exhausting. So for those of you who are looking to go into psych nursing, you just have to keep that in the back of your mind. Don't be scared, but it's gonna be mentally exhausting at times. Rewarding too, but it'll be mentally exhausting, and you'll be tired, and it'll be times when you're how did I get through that? When I think back, I'm how did I get through that? That was a lot. But that also comes with teamwork and team support. If you have a supportive staff, then it's a lot easier to get through those situations. But you also got to put your foot down too. Especially if you're charged, or even if you're not charged, and this patient is not benefiting from something, you gotta say it. You just gotta tell them this is not working. We have to find a different plan. Because you don't want nobody getting hurt. You don't want yourself to get hurt. You don't want other patients or staff members to get hurt. In that situation, multiple people were getting hurt. Every day was just ridiculous. And it may not be a person getting hurt every day, but you're shattering glasses, ripping down exits, those can be used as, something to hurt somebody. So you just always want to keep your distance and just maintain safe. So they do have PMCS, which is techniques that you use to take down the patient when they're violent. Now that is pretty much to protect the patient. I'm just going to be honest. With the Justice Center involved in that population, the primary responsibility is to make sure the patient is safe. Yes, absolutely. But PMCS is you're protecting yourself in some way, but you're really trying to protect the patient. So it's a little, you know, you want to always protect the patient, but when you're doing PMCS, just know that it protects you somewhat, but it's not going to protect you fully, because your main purpose is not injuring the patient. So if a patient attacks you, 9 times out of 10, you will get hurt. How bad? It depends. But that's why I say you think about things like keeping your distance. So if you have enough distance, you can get out of that space that you're stuck in with the patient, you know. If you're going in a room, don't ever go anywhere by yourself with the patient. I mean, it always should be a staff member in there. Don't underestimate these patients. No matter how small, big they are, don't underestimate them, because you never know. There was one patient not so long ago that we had who was hearing voices. And this patient thought that staff members or certain people were out to hurt them, because the voices was telling them that. So this patient would try to attack staff because of it. So I found myself in a situation where I couldn't believe it. I was kind of like shocked, but I was like, oh, this is going to the left. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm trying to calm the patient down, but at the same time, I'm backing up, trying to maneuver, because of course, I wasn't at arm's length. I was directly next to the patient. So I didn't have much time to like get out of there, but I was trying to like calm down the patient and move back a little bit. But that patient became a psych emergency, because that patient was about to hit me, like 2 seconds from hitting me. And this was a big patient, let's just say that. Yeah, so always try to remember your distance, because you just never know when a patient's about to get triggered. And you don't want to get hurt, nor do you want anybody else to get hurt. So I hope you guys learned some of what goes on in a psych facility, especially, you know, some of you that are interested. Just keep those things in mind, you know. Always remember safety. Safety doesn't always mean violence. Like, you also have to watch out for the patients who are really calm and depressed, because you want to watch out for ligature risks. You want to make sure that no patient is attempting suicide. So you want to watch out for that too. So those are situations that you want to really be mindful of, and you'll learn all of that. Like, you know, when you get training and stuff, you'll learn all of that, especially with JACO and stuff. They'll go through all of that and what's to be expected. But I hope you guys learned a lot. Comment, subscribe to my video, subscribe to my page, you know, comment on my video. If there's any nurses out there that's interested in digital marketing, or anybody at all, it doesn't have to be nurses, but I know there are some nurses who's interested in digital marketing. I have 2 other videos that may interest you. And if you are interested, you also can comment below under this video or any of the videos that I have. But stay tuned. I will be putting up videos. I'm probably gonna, honestly, I was gonna say weekly videos, but I may go to every other week videos. Depends on, you know, if I have time, because sometimes I'm running out of time with all of this. But I will see you guys next time. I hope you learned a lot. Again, any questions, anything, just comment below.